underage children weren't allowed to have religious beliefs and had to accept CCP's brainwash.
The CCP's experts continue to mislead the people while the country is squeezed by poor domestic harvests and rising international grain prices.
At the end of the year, the overall controllable financial risk in China spiraled out of control.
Between November 7th and 8th, a new community spread case of the CCP-Virus was found in Tianjin. The patient is a worker at the Tianjin Hailan frozen food company. The community he lived in was locked down and all residents had to take a test. They are waiting for the results. We were locked down on November 9th. Residents of the Rainbow community were all tested. The testing should be finished by this morning. The community is still under lockdown. By 2 o'clock on November 8th, the patient was transferred by ambulance to the Haihe Hospital. 11 people who had contact history with him have tested negative on their first test. 8 other people with close contact were quarantined for medical monitoring. They all tested negative.
Ren Wei, assistant dean of Fudan University, said, "Why is a global production chain all concentrated in China? It's got a pattern. We didn't force them to move their production to China. Now we further open up the production sector as well as the service sector. All service sector in the world will relocate to China within 10 years. When the service sector comes to China, it will drive the production sector forward, forming a large industrial system."
Routine unfair rulings by CCP judiciary scare people away from helping one another. They asked me to help the elderly man get up, but I have no witness to back me up in a potential dispute.
In the new era, black person put on the uniform. Communist China hired foreigners as a law enforcement to maintain stability.
At Fuzhou, an urban management officer illegally cut in and stopped a fast-moving truck fleet. The truck suffered tremendous damages in the rear-end collision. The officer tried to flee the scene and was stopped by angry truck drivers. The trucks suffered heavy damages in the rear end. "Hey, are the drivers okay?" The officer tried to flee the scene when he realized he had caused the accident. "Come out."
The present harvest of autumn grain in China is finished. The grain purchase is carried out in an all-round way. By the end of November, a total of 21.63 million tons of autumn grains were purchased in the main producing area. Compared with the initial stage, farmers' enthusiasm for selling grain has increased. Selling at the current market price, farmers' income is better. More and more farmers begin to sell grain to cash in. Northeast China is the main producing area of corn and rice. Couple companies in Jiangxi, Hunan, and Hubei fabricated information about the serious reduction in grain production across China, shortage of raw grain, and the grain sources controlled, and announced a price increase of rice. Rumors must be investigated.
After scoring some initial success with interfering in the U.S. elections, the CCP used foreign media to advocate a recoupling of China and the U.S. in trade. The CCP's media ridiculed Pompeo's move to build an anti-communist alliance in the Asia-Pacific. Hong Kong, once a proud member of the free world, is being integrated into Communist China 23 years after its return in a so-called effort to ride the momentum. The Americans first crossed the Atlantic in a non-stop flight in 1927. 93 years later, the CCP Air Force is bragging about its new non-stop flight record in the South China Sea, which is 10 hours
to patrol the South Island reefs. Therefore, this challenge is of great strategic significance for the full coverage of patrols in the South China Sea.
In a verbal threat against Taiwan, the former deputy director of the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council began talking up a war scenario. The planned cruise operation in the South China Sea by CCP Navy ship Shandong is only good for an act of intimidation, not for real battle.
as Pennsylvania finds itself the decider of the next president of the United States. President Trump maintains a healthy lead over Joe Biden in Biden's home state. But as ballot counting drags on, the opportunity for voter fraud increases dramatically. Such is the position of Team Trump, staked out in Philadelphia, where the Trump campaign's legal and political all-stars, Rudy Giuliani, Eric Trump, Corey Lewandowski, and others. Pam Bondi, former Attorney General of Florida and now Trump campaign legal advisor, took to the bullhorn in Philadelphia. The Trump campaign sent this legal team to Philadelphia to ensure remaining ballots are not magically turned into Biden votes. But despite a court order allowing Team Trump to watch ballots being counted, there appear to be difficulties enforcing this court order. Those who have been close to the Trump legal team report that despite the judge's court order to allow observers into the ballot counting rooms, the local sheriff is refusing to enforce the order, leaving Pam Bondi and other members of the Trump campaign and legal team outside for hours after the court order was issued. When some poll watchers were in fact let into the room to watch the counters, local officials found another way to evade being watched.
Up to 6 feet, but they took away the ballot machines that were in the front row and moved them to the back of the building. It's unreal what they're trying to do. To our votes is legally cast, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Legal votes must be tabulated, and they're not.
Breaking overnight, specifically from the White House, we have confirmed that White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows tested positive for COVID-19. We have video of him on Monday in Scranton, the day before the election. He was seen without a mask. In some instances, he was high-fiving supporters, not adhering to any social distancing guidelines put forward by the CDC. He was then with the president at campaign headquarters the next day on Election Day and the East Room overnight about 2:30 in the morning. Both times, he was not wearing a mask.
There needs to be transparency in this process. There needs to be integrity. Americans need to have confidence that their elections have integrity. And that means things like poll watchers. Poll watchers from both parties need to be present as ballots are being counted. That means that states need to give an accounting of how many absentee ballots they have left, how many mail-in ballots are there. It also means things like ballot harvesting, Tucker, where you pay a third party to go collect ballots and bring them in. That ought to be illegal in the United States of America. Let's ban ballot harvesting right now. It is rife with abuse. It is inviting abuse. These are the kind of reforms that we need to pursue, but right now...
did get pulled down on YouTube. The reason we got pulled down on YouTube and Twitter, we're too powerful now. We're getting real information. You know, Fox won't do it. We're getting real information to the American people. We're leading to this uprising. They're not going to back down. And people should know, you can post down on Twitter, you can post down on YouTube, you can post down on anything you want to. We're not stopping. Right, we're up now. We're going to be up tomorrow. We've got methodologies to get up. We're not going to back down, and people will find us, and we'll get even bigger and bigger and bigger. Yes, ma'am.
And can I just say, it's crazy because the reason we have blown up so much in the last few days is because people are turning away from the mainstream media, and they're coming to you for answers, for clarity on these things. And of course, they don't want people really hearing that.
Sure, they want you dumb and stupid and in servitude.
And just believing one narrative.
Exactly.
Notice one thing that's missing from all of this: the media is not covering the Trump people out rallying in front of these counting places all around the country. They're not covering us. They want to cut us back. They're not afraid of the virus anymore. You notice there's not been one comment about people catching the virus in these protests. You know what they're afraid of? They are afraid of the most powerful thing on planet Earth, and that is the righteous indignation of free American people when they think they have been grifted.
Amen. They're not going to back off. Okay, Bill.
This year's U.S. election, who is the winner? It's the new federal state of China and the whistleblower movement, of course. Who else? Who else can win? Tell me. Which country won? Tell me. America? CCP? Taiwan? Japan? So, brothers and sisters, what I can tell you is the winner is the new federal state of China and the whistleblower movement. Secondly, who will be the president? Of course it will be President Trump. And the Republican Party. Don't forget, the Republican Party. They will win for sure. Some will definitely ask, what would happen if we lose? I just want to ask one question. When I started whistleblowing, I joined President Trump's club in 2015. Mar-a-Lago Club. Back then, he hadn't planned to run for president. 1 year later, he ran and was elected. Until now, remember everyone, the one who wanted to extradite me back to China the most, who almost succeeded, but in reality wasn't able to, was President Trump. Another person who wanted me back in China and was paid by the CCP was Elliot Brody, not Hunter Biden. We have no quarrel or feud with the Democratic Party at all. No one from the Democratic Party tried to hurt us. No proof of them having hurt us. When Hunter Biden's documents were released, he didn't hurt the NFSC, whistleblower movement, or Milesguo. However, I have to let everyone know one thing. This is not between I, Milesguo, the Republicans, and the Democrats. The whistleblower movement and the new federal state of China also have no intention to be involved in U.S. politics. Remember, everyone, the NFSC, whistleblower movement, and Milesguo, we only have one identity, one mission: take down the CCP. Whoever is a friend of the CCP is an enemy of ours.
The U.S. recorded more than 126,000 new COVID-19 cases on Saturday, the most in a single day since the pandemic began. Denmark fined 240 people with the mink-related coronavirus. France marked a great milestone of over 40,000 coronavirus deaths. India reported 45,674 new coronavirus infections over the past 24 hours. Japan identified more than 1,300 new cases of COVID-19 on Saturday. 413 more died of coronavirus in the UK as cases rise by nearly 25,000. The Australian state of Victoria will lift even more COVID-19 restrictions as the virus there appears to be under control. Europe and the UK say significant differences still remain in Brexit trade talks.
Dear mama, are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you, and sees you in his dreams. You said take down the CCP, cause it's God's will, it's God's will. So I'll wait for you, and I'll see you when we end the CCP, yeah. So